You know the song. It's one of the most iconic power ballads ever written, the ultimate anthem of loneliness. But the story behind Eric Carmen's All by Myself, well, it's way more complicated than you might think. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain. So let's start with a little pop culture trivia. What does a heartbroken Bridget Jones, miserably singing into a wine bottle, and a moping Chandler being from Friends, what do they have in common?
Yep, you got it. They share an anthem. For decades, All by Myself has been the absolute go-to soundtrack for anyone feeling utterly, dramatically, and completely alone. So, how in the world did this one song become the universal symbol of solitude?
Well, the secret is its raw, emotional honesty. As the songwriter Eric Carmen said himself, he just knew that feeling of being all by myself was universal. So he kept the lyrics incredibly simple, figuring that the raw emotion carried by that amazing melody would go straight to your heart.
But this is where the story gets really fascinating. This masterpiece wasn't just some single burst of inspiration. Nope, it was actually a musical mashup, pieced together from three totally different sources. Let's break down this secret recipe.
Think of Carmen as kind of a musical chef here. First, he spent 2 whole months composing that incredible, intricate piano solo. Then, for the verse, he borrowed a melody from a classical composer. And finally, for the chorus, he actually recycled a tune from one of his own earlier songs.
You know that famously sad, beautiful piano intro and verse? That was lifted directly from the second movement of Russian composer Sergei Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. And get this, it was written all the way back in 1901.
And what about that huge, powerful chorus? Well, that melody was originally from a 1973 song called Let's Pretend, which Carmen had written for his old band, the power pop group The Raspberries. See, Carmen felt that his earlier song, Let's Pretend, was this great track that just never got the attention it deserved. So his solution was pretty simple. In his own words, he decided, I'll go back and steal from myself to give that awesome chorus a brand new life. Now, stealing from himself, totally legal. But borrowing from Rachmaninoff, oof, that created a major, and I mean a very expensive problem. To really get why this was such a big deal, we need to talk about something called the public domain. Basically, when a creative work gets old enough, its copyright expires, and it becomes totally free for anyone to use. And right there, that was Carmen's huge mistake. He just assumed that a piece of music from 1901 would definitely be in the public domain by then, but he was wrong. The copyright was still very much active, and it was controlled by the Rachmaninoff estate. So after All by Myself became this massive global hit, guess who came calling? The Rachmaninoff estate. Carmen had no choice. He was forced into a settlement where he had to give the long-dead composer official songwriting credit and, more importantly, a big chunk of the song's royalties. Forever. But even with that legal nightmare, the song's legacy was just unstoppable. It became a cultural touchstone not just for one generation, but for several. First, it was a smash for Eric Carmen in 1975, hitting number 2 on the US charts. Then, 21 years later, Celine Dion recorded her legendary cover. Her 1996 version peaked at number 4 and just introduced the song's incredible power to a whole new audience. And its influence just snowballed from there. From Bridget Jones's Diary and Clueless to Friends and even Shrek 2, the song became the undisputed cultural shorthand for I am feeling very, very alone right now. So All by Myself is so much more than just a simple ballad. It's this complex work of art built from original genius, clever self-recycling, and a classical loan that turned into a really costly mistake. Which leaves us with a final question. Is it a masterpiece of melancholy, or is it a brilliant act of musical theft? You know what? The answer is it's probably both.